Hi. What will happen to a child when his narcissistic parents refuse to carry any responsibility for the household and may even endanger your safety? My name is Matthijs, and I'm making this video series about growing up with narcissistic parents as a sort of graduation project for myself. You can heal from narcissistic abuse, but you will have to acquire the right insights. And since I've already gone through this lengthy process, I decided to turn these into videos so that other people with similar experiences may very quickly pick up where I left off. Growing up with two narcissistic parents, you may very quickly be thrown into a position where you, as the firstborn child, or perhaps another sibling in the hierarchy, are going to have to take up the sort of responsibilities that your irresponsible narcissistic parents refuse to take up. There's a word for this process, for this role reversal. It's called parentification. It means that you as a child are more of a parent than your parents are to you. In fact, your parents may be throwing tantrums, they may be irresponsible, they may be endangering the household, and if there's no one left to care for them, then who will? And so what usually happens is that the oldest child will take on the role of the parent to his own parents, meaning he has to oversee his own parents to prevent them from doing dangerous things and irresponsible acts. If when you were a child, you were made to be this most responsible member of your household because your narcissistic parents wouldn't, you will have a problem in your head. When you grow up, you will continue feeling responsible for other people's problems. You, for example, may have felt responsible for your younger siblings and for your parents. And even in adulthood, you may still feel responsible for the lives of your adult brothers and sisters and their problems that show up later in life. This does two things to you as the parentified child. You, firstly, lose your spontaneity. You can't be spontaneous anymore because if you're spontaneous, there's no one else watching out for you, right? Your parents are not paying attention to things going wrong. And secondly, it robs you of your childhood. You've become a much more mature, grown-up person for your age. Say you were 10 years old and you're basically guiding the household to safety. You never had the chance to be a teenager. This, for example, is what happened to me. As a teenager, I was far more adult and far more conscious of my responsibilities than I should have been. I wasn't able to be a spontaneous teenager trying things out. I had to always watch out because my parents wouldn't. One day when I was about 11 years old, my mother, me, and my three younger brothers returned from a walk through a forest. That whole afternoon, my mother had been quite absent in her mind. She didn't speak much, didn't say much. She was like Mother Goose, and we were the chicks following her around. And when we got back to the car, we drove back home. On our way home, there was a traffic jam in front of a traffic light. And precisely where my mother had to stop her car, there were railroad tracks. We stopped the car on the railroad tracks, and within a minute or so, while we were waiting for the traffic jam in front of a traffic light to clear up, the boom behind us dropped. The sound started bing, 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 signaling that a train was coming. Okay, I was sitting in the passenger seat, my baby brothers were in the back seat, and my mother was behind the steering wheel. She was the adult. She was over 40. I assumed then that my mother would solve this problem, right? I was just sitting there minding my own business. Since my mother did not act, I looked over to her and I noticed that she had both hands on the steering wheel and her head down like so. She wasn't paying attention to her surroundings at all. She wasn't responding to the fact that a train was coming at us and we were parked on the railroad tracks. So I panicked. I told my mom, get off the tracks, get off the tracks. There's a train coming. We have to get off the tracks. And you see what happens? I'm the 11-year-old, but I'm taking the responsibility for this situation to try to save our family. So I removed my seatbelt because I realized that we are in a 3-door car, meaning I have to move my seat forward so that my baby brothers can exit through the door. as I'm telling my brothers, like, we have to get out of the car because there's a train coming and mom isn't moving, mom isn't responding. Right in that moment, the cars in front of us start moving forward. Our mom, luckily, hits the gas pedal and the train zooms right past us. The thing with narcissistic parents in a situation like this is that they don't want to be seen as flawed. They don't want to be seen as bad parents. So when we got home, my mother wouldn't even tell my father about this incident. In fact, we never spoke about it again. This is one reason why I decided to make this video, because I still needed to process this quite traumatic event. I could give you many such examples where I had to take the lead in order to save our family because my parents wouldn't. I could tell you about the time that my baby brothers were crawling across a busy road behind the back of our house because our mother wasn't paying any attention to where her children were. In fact, come to think of it, it's quite possible that my mother was murderous or even suicidal, and that she was thinking, well, if the baby brothers are killed or kidnapped on that road, that's 2 children fewer that she needs to take care of. Or on that incident on the railroads, I think it's quite possible that my mother was having suicidal thoughts. And although I don't think she planned it to do it that way, the situation did offer her a convenient way out. Had the train hit us, she could have taken herself and her 4 children out. Yes, this is how bad the relationship between my mom and dad was. I suspect that they were thinking of getting rid of the kids and then being able to get a divorce that way. At least then they would have been able to present themselves as the grieving but still good mother, or the grieving but still good father. Right? This is what narcissism does to you. It's deadly.